What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Local Look, episode 11. Man, I've been gone I didn't even check the date on the last video of Local Look 10. And I believe that was Boconas y Revolucionarias, the episode about Alivio and Proyecto Vecindad, and them having their open mics and their speakeasies that they have over there at Eric's house, who was a good friend. But special guest today, my cousin Giovanni Ruiz is in the house, and he is a super genius rocket scientist. Yeah, Gio, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, and what you went to school for, a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into what we saw at the last city council meeting.
Sure. So I just finished school for my master's degree in electrical engineering, and I'm pretty into robotics right now. So automation and artificial intelligence. I think that's like pretty important right now. Things are picking up in that field and influencing a lot of things, including the economy and our politics and whatnot. So that's what I'm into.
All right, cool. And you went to school where?
San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly.
Okay, cool. And so you graduated not just a couple weeks ago now, a month ago?
Yeah, like a month ago.
Month ago, and you're in the field now. You're looking for work, and what do you see yourself maybe doing or getting into?
So I'm looking for a full-time job right now in the robotics field. I have at least one interview lined up. But I'm also looking to start my own business. And I know that the marijuana issue is coming up, and there's a lot of potential money there to be made. Right. And so I'm looking into that. What can we do as far as software, mechanical or like automation of the growth of marijuana, and whenever a new product comes on the market, there's a lot of innovation that happens, and I think it's pretty exciting what's about to happen. I believe. Okay,
cool. Well, that's a good little segue into the council meeting that we witnessed. This was on September 11th, and I know that you do a lot of activism on your own time as well. So I decided to give you a call and bring you in, and just give it as an outsider looking in, from other cities. What have you seen different from the city council meeting in Cudahy versus other city councils that you've been to?
Yeah, so I came into the meeting about a week ago, right? Or it was last Monday. I had to sit on it for a while to think about what I saw there. What really blew me away was the fact that the mayor brought in a speaker, right, a presentation for a startup that is looking to innovate in the field of automated vehicles or driverless vehicles, and using the city of Cudahy for a test platform to test their technology. I think that's pretty cool. Like, we should be bringing in technology into our community and getting people inspired by what's happening in that field. Right.
What makes the city of Cudahy attractive to these businesses is that it's so small that they can, the scaling for their projects is easy because it's such a small, dense area, just like that automated car presentation. That's what they said. They said, because Cudahy is such a small city, we can work with it. So just the idea that the mayor and some of the city council members have the foresight to start bringing in that kind of innovation, I think is really cool for a city that is on the up and coming.
Yeah, and the main topic of that meeting was the marijuana issue and what the city should do as far as Prop 64 and the legalization of recreational marijuana in California. And I was also blown away by the public support for it, and also the opposition. The opposition of it, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Because I was, I went in there knowing that we were going to be having the half of the room was gonna be split between people who understand that marijuana or cannabis is not just something that people use recreationally, but that other people are starting to use as a substitute, for medicines or pills, that kind of do more damage than good in some cases, and the side effects are sometimes not worth it. That they understand that people aren't just getting high, and then the other side of the people were people like my folks, who I've been arguing since I was, 20, 21, a young, marijuana user, recreational user, telling them that, it's a lot safer than smoking cigarettes and a lot safer than, being out here drinking, and destroying my liver, and just the generational gap between the two thought processes, I don't know. Your parents are kind of were the same, right? Or now they're more laxed about it?
Yeah, they're a lot more laxed about it.
Yeah.
I think they've come around on that issue.
Yeah.
Definitely, one of the highlights of the meeting was when one of the city council members started talking in Spanish to the audience and was trying to make the case that a lot of the things that we do right now, as far as like recreational drugs like alcohol and cigarettes, are accepted.
Right, and you're talking about the council member Chris Hernandez. Who he started, not to cut you off, but he was talking about how who doesn't enjoy a beer, here and there, who doesn't enjoy their cigarette. Exactly. and then almost that entire half of the room that was against the whole cannabis idea walked out. They didn't like to hear it. What were your thoughts on that?
That was pretty ridiculous. Everybody got pissed. People are very passionate about this, and I can see it in some of the eyes of the people that were there. They're afraid. They're afraid for the young ones, for the youth, and what effects is that going to have on their community as far as crime. And well, from I think what we've seen, I think you can make the case that the issue is overblown in a lot of cases.
Right, and it's more in there. It's overblown in their well, not only there, but the way they were brought up. They were brought up to think that marijuana was the most dangerous thing, gateway to this, gateway to that. All the myths. Reefer madness, all that stuff, all that propaganda. It sucks to say, but like a lot of our parents, if it's on TV, it's true. If it was on the nightly news, on those two networks that our parents watch, like channel 34 and 52, like if it was on there, then it was true, and they don't really have other outlets. They don't really research things. We've had access to the internet since we were in way before I did. I didn't have really good access to the internet until I was in about high school, maybe right into getting into high school.
No, same here.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Cool.
While,
right. Yeah. So, we've been looking everything up that's been taught to us since we've been able to. Yeah. And how many documentaries haven't you watched? Or how many documentaries hasn't anybody else watched?
Yeah. Also, so you bring up the point of the internet, right, and how we have access to all this information, right? Where it's 2017, everything's interconnected. However, so one of the parents that came up to me and started talking to me was a person that was claiming that the internet was the source of their information, and they were telling me like I need to get educated, go on the internet, and find out the truth about marijuana and how deadly and destructive it is to the human body and to the community, and that was the claim that they were making. And so that's another thing about like today's political climate is that there's a lot of information going around, and I guess it's important not just to figure out where to get the information like on the internet, but also to be able to verify whether the information is correct or not, right? Because even our parents have access to the internet now.
Right. Yeah, man, and it's definitely becoming a choice now to not know, and not have the right information, because there's parents that I've seen, they're using their they're using their Facebook accounts, and their Instagram like, like someone who's known how to use the internet for a long time, but you don't go on there to research, issues. You just go with what you've been told for so long, and what are let's get into some of these myths about marijuana. What are some of these? Let's see if we can go online and see some of these myths and see what we get. All right, I'm gonna bring this one up. This is from the National Memo, and it actually has something published by some data that was published in the Journal of Urban Economics, since that's what we're talking about here. Claims that marijuana retailers attract crime are unsupported by the available evidence. In fact, studies show just the opposite result. Most recently, data published in the Journal of Urban Economics reports that dispensary operators deter neighborhood crime. Researchers at the University of Southern California assessed the impact of dispensary closures on crime rates in the city of Los Angeles. Investigators identified an immediate increase in criminal activity, particularly property crime, larceny, and auto break-ins in areas where dispensary operations were forced to close, as compared to crime rates in those neighborhoods where marijuana retailers remained open for business. Open dispensaries provide over $30,000 per year in social benefit in terms of larcenies prevented, researchers concluded. So, for anybody that wants to jump on that train that, cannabis is going to bring crime, and, just that old school way of thinking from a lot of the people that were in that council meeting, there's evidence that, that will disprove that. What do you think, Gio?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Another thing that they brought up at the council meeting, the people I was talking to, was the idea that cannabis, the legalization of cannabis and its economy or its business coming to the community is going to increase use amongst the youth, or amongst everybody. And I can see why they would think that, but I'll take a paragraph from the same article that you just cited. It says, there's been no rise in problematic pot use post-legalization. Claims that the passage of marijuana regulatory laws has been associated with an increased rates of marijuana abuse, sometimes described as cannabis abuse disorder, remain largely unsubstantiated. In fact, the majority of studies addressing the issue find no significant changes in the number of young people or adults using cannabis in a problematic manner. So they're saying like there's nothing to back this up. In fact, if we look at it theoretically, let's see what this to try to imagine what would happen. Right now, all the youth are getting their weed from the black market, basically. Right. Since it's illegal, and so these people that sell it on the black market are not being regulated. There's no oversight. Like, they're breaking the law, and so they do it underneath they do it in the shadows, right? And that's where our youth usually would get it. That's what I would do when I was in high school, But now that it's becoming legal and more accessible through a legal means without having to break any laws or run the stress or the risk of getting caught, you just go to a dispensary, and it's just easier, less of a hassle that way. And so I think that we can make the justification that by legalizing marijuana, we could bring it off the streets and bring it into a more controlled environment where only legal adults are able to consume a recreational substance.
Right, and I wanted to get into that too, because not only does it make it, when you make it accessible for adults, and you regulate who's going to be able to purchase said substance, or whatever it is you're talking about, it people don't take into consideration like these, that they're actually taking it a step further by you having to show your ID to even walk into a dispensary. There's liquor stores where toddlers could walk in, and they can see posters that that promote drinking, that promote cigarette smoking, they can walk to the back and even grab a beer, until the shop owner or the liquor store, guy at the cash register sees you, and sometimes it's too late and you're walking out with alcohol, and dispensaries take it a whole step further, and you can't even walk back to where the product is, and unless you prove that you're 21.
So it's really secure.
It's a lot more secure.
They always have security guards and very controlled environment,
Right.
from what I've seen.
So that takes us into the hypocrisy. When the council member mentioned people who like to have a beer, to have a cigarette, and they stood up and they walked out. Why is that? Why is it any different? What is it about the stigma, and what is it about these people that they don't accept that marijuana should be in the same category?
I think part of it is there's a culture around the use of alcohol in this country, and I think also where our culture, our main culture, we're speaking English right now, right, and we speak Spanish. That culture is from Europe, and there's also there was never really a stigma associated with alcohol, as far as I'm aware. You drink it when you're at a party with your friends.
It's in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, water into wine, it's all good.
Yeah.
But I guess there was never any joint passing or joint rolling in the Bible.
No, so that's not cool.
It's not cool. So, what is it what do you think is it gonna take to change some of these minds? Because I know there was one person in there who actually worked at a dispensary and said that she was against it before all the laws started to change, and now works at a dispensary and sees the medical need, not just the recreational side of it. So maybe more people like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that things are definitely about to change, right? It's about to become mainstream. I think culturally, it's especially in California, it's become mainstream slowly, and now it's officially legal, And now that it's going to be around more, I don't even know it's going to be around more, but it's definitely going to appear more. I think I see it in culture more, right? There's a Netflix show called Disjointed, right, that just came out.
Oh yeah, I watched all of it.
Yeah, and so it's becoming more accepted, and I think that this generation, our generation is more accepting, and it just takes time. And
it's funny you mentioned that, because I also watch, for anyone that's out there that has the HBO app or just has HBO, I was watching Ballers, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and there's a football player on there who got injured and then used CBDs to recuperate and get healthier faster, so he can come back and play, and then tested positive for cannabis and whatnot. But CBD is non-psychoactive. For those of you who don't know, CBD they've been able to extract part of the cannabis plant that helps you recover without the psychoactive part of it, so you don't get high, but you still gain all the medical aspects of it. So seeing that on a major TV show, on HBO, how they're kind of pushing that side of it, and then we're seeing Disjointed, and this was it's a story of she's an ex-lawyer, right, who basically opens up her own dispensary and has to deal with running her business like a business, and dealing with shop owners next to her. One of the characters' names is Taekwondo Doug, and he has kids who come into his Taekwondo studio, and he doesn't want people smoking in the parking lot after they buy their weed, and all that stuff, which I get, I totally get. But when you see a person out there, outside having a 15-minute break and they're smoking a cigarette, nobody says anything. It's accepted. So I wonder if how long it'll take for us to get there, if we will ever get there. Is it more, is it, you think it's worse for kids to be walking around secondhand cigarette smoke or secondhand weed smoke? Should they both be regulated more? Should they both be done indoors or wherever you can't be seen?
Um, I I think there is a case to be made. I don't know how. This is what I've heard, right? And I don't know if I can substantiate this based on some of the things I've been reading. But the claim is that marijuana use for young people can be detrimental to their brains, right? In the same way that alcohol is, or at least this is how it's described. Right? In the same way that to any other drug, you apply it to a brain that's still developing, it could be detrimental to the brain. And I wouldn't advocate at all. I don't think anybody is that people under the age of 21 or legal adults that are legally allowed to purchase the drug should be using it.
Right.
Right. It should be adults that are can consume alcohol, that can smoke weed.
Right.
And I think this is a pretty sound position, in, until we can get more research. And that's another thing. Like, there's been very little research. The fact that it's a Schedule 1 drug, it makes it difficult for studies to be conducted on the drug.
How is that possible that marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug along with, what is this up there, methamphetamines and
LSD?
And LSD? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy to me. And, that's the reason why they can't do research, and once they allow, if they ever take it off the Schedule 1 list, we'll be able to know so much more about, marijuana itself, and the benefits and the cons, or, if there are any.
Well, I was surprised to learn this fact today, that the FDA has approved THC for use for treating nausea and to improve appetite.
Oh.
Right? Like, I haven't really ever looked at the details of this. I've heard of this, but I guess it's true. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And yeah, nausea, of course, appetite, of course, people who are trying to recover from chemotherapy, definitely are using this for medical use, and I think, just me, I'm not, I don't even like to take, an aspirin when I have a headache. I'm like that kind of person. Like, just don't give me any pills or nothing. Like, I'd rather write it out or whatever. But if I can take a hit, smoke a bowl and then be fine afterwards, that's way better to me than putting some chemical tablet in my stomach.
Well, yeah. Well, it even says on the label, like, on Tylenol, you shouldn't take more than this amount because it's gonna mess you up.
Yeah.
It's gonna mess up your liver. So it's a good reason to be careful.
So, a lot of people also talk about, safety. They talk about how, it's also on the subject that we touched a little bit on earlier, which is a crime. What about the war on drugs? They're saying, I've read articles that say that legalizing marijuana will do what the war on drugs couldn't do in the entire time it's been waging. Let's talk about that. What do you think about that?
Well, sure. I think that it's obvious. Well, a lot of people have said this as well in positions of power, that the war on drugs has been a complete failure. Kind of like the war on terror, but that's another subject. But you cannot. It's really difficult to control this type of behavior from a governmental standpoint. We've already seen this, right? This is nothing new. We saw this in the 1920s with the prohibition of alcohol.
Yep, Al Capone.
Yeah, it created because there's so much money to be made by doing illegal behavior.
Yeah,
it's no surprise that
organized crime grew out of it, right? And that's what people forget. If you remember your history, man, that the mafia, was all on that. Oh, you're gonna make this illegal? Okay, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure if we did that with tobacco now, the same thing would happen. Yeah, the exact same thing would happen.
Sell cigars, from underneath the pocket.
Exactly. So, the war on drugs, it's gonna definitely, make it not worth it for these drug cartels to try to smuggle their marijuana wherever they're gonna take it, because we have it, like
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So that's another one of those myths, that you're just gonna be selling this and pocketing the money. It's funny how the council members, they took a lot of heat from half of the room, but they were acting like if they were doing it to them on purpose, when this is something that was voted on already.
Yeah.
Prop 64. They were saying that in every precinct there, it passed by more than 55%.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to explain to them the whole time. They were saying like, this is not up to us, right? This happened last November. Now we got to figure out how to deal with it. Like the question of whether this is we should this is a moral thing, or like it's yeah. So we need to. I was there and I said that we definitely need to take control of this before others take the lead for us.
And let's talk about that. If you could control it, well, now that we're talking about controlling it, what do you think would be the best way for the city of a city that small to control it? Because for the federal government to come in and tell you what you're gonna do, with the ordinances or whatever, they're definitely not gonna do something that will benefit the city as much as if we did it ourselves, or if they did it themselves. So what do you think would be the best way? Maybe we can convince these people who are completely against it. We'll be like, you know what? Then hold the mayor and the council members, to their word that a lot of that revenue is gonna go to the city. That it's gonna go to recreational, things, youth sports, or just making the city look better overall.
Yeah. So I think that one of the first things that people think of when they think of cannabis is it's reuse recreationally, right, as a drug to get high. But there are other uses for it. Hemp itself, the leaf, is can be a very potent biodiesel, right, for consumption for vehicles, right? And we know that biodiesel from the creation of other from other plants like corn, and the creation of I think methanol or ethanol, I forgot what it's called, but because there's less carbon involved in the molecule, it's cleaner. It burns cleaner, right? And so the ashes that are left over are less than when you burn oil or petroleum or like fossil fuels, So I think one thing that Cudahy could do, I don't know what we can do with all the warehouse space. Do you guys have warehouse space here?
There's definitely spaces, vacant lots where you can build, and there's a lot of abandoned buildings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be done there, right? We don't have to. I know there is a market there for recreational use, but it's not the only way we can use cannabis.
Right, and that's a big thing that people don't understand. It's like, there's other uses for this than just the flower itself and smoking the flower. There's the whole entire reason why there's pushback against this is because the hemp that you can use from it will put a lot of places out of business, a lot of these big corporations. So the fear mongering comes a lot from these corporations as well, and you got to look out for that.
You're talking about the pharmaceutical industry,
like
right?
Pharmaceutical industry, yeah. So
yeah, if you can grow your own plant, then it's really difficult
for them to
control it.
Yeah. So
it's really like a decentralized open source technology that we have here,
right?
Similar to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is another decentralized and currency, right? And these type of these products or technologies or things, right, that we're talking about that are hard to control from a centralized location like a bank or a pharmaceutical drug maker, right, is very powerful. And I think this could be a disruptive force in the medical field, depending on how things go.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna wrap it up right there. It was nice having you, Gio. Man, is there anything you wanna, any shout outs or anything you wanna say before we sign off here?
Um, yeah, shout out to, like I said, the mayor. The mayor really impressed me.
Chris Garcia.
Yep.
Cool, man. Yeah, dude. A lot of people like to say that that we're paid to do this, that we're paid, to go and support him. But, in reality, I'll let everybody know that, me and Chris Markovich go back to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, to elementary school, So, there's been times where he's been wrong and I've called him out. And there's been times, where I support him. And, what we didn't discuss before we leave, ooh, almost left. Almost left like that coward Jack Guerrero.
Oh.
So, man, what do you think about that? Have you ever seen a council member in any other meeting just walk out and leave?
No, I think that's the first time I've ever seen something like that.
Guess what, man? It's not the first time he's ever done it, and people still support him. Like,
that's crazy to me. Like, he's an elected official. Like, he should be, following. He should be doing his job. Like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah, and that's what happens. And what's funny is, he left right after those white supremacists and those alt-right dudes, and Arthur Schopper, when they walked out, he walked out right afterwards. And man, it's obvious that when they say that we're the ones that are there supporting Chris and getting something under the table or whatever they would like to say. Nah, man, that's a clear indication that those people are working together. And that the fact that some of the residents of Cudahy don't see it, it's upsetting. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, Jack Guerrero, you know how we feel about you here at Local Look. But, man, I can't wait for the next council meeting so I can call you out. That's it for us, Local Look. Hit us up on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. By the way, man, I'm sorry for being super busy, man. For those of you guys that know, what I do on the side, I'm in multiple tribute bands, and my Rage Against the Machine tribute band has been doing really well this summer, and we've been doing a lot of shows, and I've been getting really serious with it. So that's been taking some time away from being as active as I want in the activism community. And then I also started taking my bass playing a lot more seriously too, and I joined a Tool cover band called Loot. You guys could check them out too, on Instagram and Facebook. I'm gonna plug all my shit right now.
All right, you guys are pretty good.
Thank you, man. Giovanni's seen us. He knows what's good. So but that wasn't to plug that. It was just really to say that sorry for being busy. I'm gonna come back now with Giovanni a lot more often. Maybe try to do it once, maybe twice a month or something like that. Maybe more often than that. Yeah, I wanted to say, since that time off, man, we've already hit over like 500 followers on the Facebook page, and people get on there and they're looking, and I see you guys liking some of the posts and having comments and stuff like that. So I appreciate that, and hopefully we can get more residents and other Southeast LA people to start talking about the issues, and have more input on what's going on. So thank you guys on that. Peace out. Love you guys. All right.